abroad. So really exciting. And I just want to kind of share, that's the fun part. As we all saw, some economic reports came out in real estate, let's say in the residential, that prices are at the all-time high, but sales are at the all-time low, right? And many of us that have been around since the last, I would say, Great Recession into the 2007, 2009, we all know it wasn't all roses. Everyone thinks you come into real estate or commercial real estate and you make a ton of money. That's not always the case. And one thing where I met Paul, who has a great story really with mental health, mental capacity, abilities, it's so important. But I'll just say this. We always look at the good side of making money and the success and the ability to do well in this business, which is obviously fantastic and great. But many people have to understand the flip side of it, the emotional roller coaster, the difficulties doing this business. A lot of people, they give up, which is sometimes I say the easy way to just quit. But there's sometimes the emotional damage where if, let's say, you have a very successful career, you built your career and things didn't go your way, or you leveraged and lost a tremendous amount of money. And I'll say sometimes in the last 2007 and 9, and for those that have been around the 89, 92, you lost all your money. You had to start over completely again. How many people mentally can manage and handle a complete loss, a complete setback, and keep moving forward? This is what we want to discuss today. And Paul Hoang, thank you for coming here. You have a great story of what you've done in the community, but also your study of really mental health, let's say excellent performance of how your mind is and how it can be, really managing teams, professionals, and all the challenges that go really in here, in your head. And everyone forgets about it's always in here, from yourself to succeed, for yourself to go. Sometimes if you are the leader or in charge, to be the rock so you can support your team. But that's a very heavy burden. And Paul, if you don't mind really sharing your story, your journey, the changes you've made, and then what are you doing now, and giving people some tips, really about the mentality, but also staying in the game, staying supportive, and really not giving up, because I know you manage crisis centers to the most difficult things that people are thinking to do because they're almost at wit's end. And right now, I hate to say it, people have been calling me ever since COVID, the interest rates increase. They thought they were going to get through this. And unfortunately, tough things happen to good people. And I just want to really put this out there so you may know for yourself, for your friends, or for your family, a solution, a way to reach out to help people, because it is tough right now. I know people are smiling. Social media shows everyone's happy or making money or doing all these things, but it's not the truth. It's very tough. So Paul, if you don't mind sharing your story, it's a beautiful story. And I want this session to really help people and find ways to help people if they don't know what to do. So Paul, please share. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Jim, for this opportunity. Again, my name is Paul Hoang. I am a licensed clinical social worker by training, but before that, I was a missionary for 7 years as a religious. I think all of us have a story. All of us have a story, and how we frame it, how we understand it, will help us to either utilize our stories, tragic or successful, whatever that may be, right, can help shape our life and reframe. And I'll go into that in a bit. So I came to the U.S. as a refugee, right? For those who are familiar with the Vietnam War and the aftermath of it. And so my family and I were one of those, the research shows like millions of people escaped by boat after the war. My family escaped by boat in the late 80s. And we were on the ocean for almost about 30 days. Because after the engine broke, one of the individuals who was supposed to be helping us escape, they kind of somewhat like turned on us, right? Called the cops and stole everyone's belongings. And so during that time, anyone who escaped Vietnam by boat, in that mindset, that's the last opportunity. So oftentimes they bring all the valuable. So because they know that they've taken all the golds or the jewelries that the people have brought along as the last means for survival on the sea or in a new land. So when we were in the ocean for 30 days, I was about 7 at that time. And there were The Perfect Storm. For those who have seen the movie, The Perfect Storm, it's similar to that, where a boat is getting knocked up, right, and down in the Black Oceans out there, and dealing with starvations, dealing with pirates attack. So in short, it came to the point where as a kid, I still remember being on top of the small fishing boat. It's a small, probably a 15-footer, small fishing boat, but with 27 men, women, and children, sleeping in the skeleton of the boat where the bay where the fish are kept. And I was on top of the bay of the boat at nighttime, and I overheard one of the men talking with another man about killing the sickest person on the boat so that we can all eat them. And I told my dad when I heard that, and my dad being the navigator, one of the leader who have escaped, he kind of put a stop to that because he stated to everybody that although not all of us were Christians or Catholic, he took command and he said, hungry as we are people of faith, and we do not believe in killing people, especially among us who are sick for now. So we stripped gear and went to prayer mode instead, because we were starving. We were breaking apart part of the boats to turn them into spear to try to catch fish to eat. Long story short, during that time period, and I grew up here in the U.S. Right after spending 2 years in the refugee camps and being sponsored coming over to the U.S. Growing up, I suffered from PTSD, not knowing it was PTSD. Every time there's a storm, my whole body would shake up. Right? Every time I go down the swimming pool, my whole body would lock up and I would just sink to the bottom. When I sink to the bottom, I would crawl to the side of the pool to where I grab a ladder and climb myself up again. And in my mind, since I was young, I was pretty a more positive spin of framing of this as a strong will, right? Not the stubborn. But I was determined that if I was to ever get into the ocean again, I would not drown. And so I keep jumping down to the pool, even though my body would still lock up every time I jump in. And that because of that, I couldn't swim because my whole body would lock up. Until I joined a seminary after high school, forced and trained myself to swim, took the lifeguard test to become a lifeguard so I can save others. And so I passed, became a lifeguard for the American Red Cross for college. So that was the story that for me helped me to remind me of my past, where I came from, the journey that I have struggled with and have overcome. And so every time I deal with challenges now as an adult or growing up here, I always try to remember back the horrific journey that took me from my land, right, and my family and others to come here for a better future. And so seeing my dad struggle, seeing the people who die on the oceans, talking to other people in the refugee camps, and remembering all of those challenges that people experience. And so for me, that's a baseline that I use to be able to motivate myself, to be able to find opportunities. And America being the land of opportunities, growing up here in a non-Asian community, then it really helps me to look very broadly in all the different aspects and be able to learn from all the different cultures around me, the positive aspect and elements, which helped me to move forward. And so when I joined a missionary and became a religious after high school with the Catholic Church, and as a missionary, I traveled throughout the world and throughout the US to do missionary work. The year that was pivotal for me was 2001, as we all remember 9/11. Right? When 9/11 hit, I was in Japan. I still remember I was walking to the hall for dinner, and in the hall, I passed a lounge, and the seminarians and the brothers were watching TV. And I saw an airplane fly into the building. And I thought, cool, what movie are you watching? And they said, no, this is the news. This is what's going on in your country. I was just devastated. I could not imagine, it's like that, something like that could happen. So that's why, like for most of us, we can exactly remember where we are, what we were doing on 9/11. And so that was another tragic event that kind of put me back in place and so forth. Okay, don't take things for granted. And living and working with people who are homeless, prostitute as a missionary, people in the Philippines, Manila, and Smoky Mountain, where they're living on a mountain. It's called Smoky Mountain because it's a mountain of garbage. It's a dump site. Over 50,000 people who are so poor they cannot afford to live anywhere else, they build a home on top of a dump site. And one of the life lessons that I've learned when I spent a brief period of time there was straight from Japan. I went there to visit Father Frank Beltran, who founded that operation over there. He built a school, he built a church on the dump site to serve his community. And I had a box of chocolate from Japan. And my intention was to give that to Father Beltran as a gift. But when I came out there, initially it was such a struggle for me because I was gagging. The smell, the stench was so strong. And I was trying not to throw up or not to gag in front of the people to our respect. And I was just trying to hold it in. And then Father Frank Bertrand introduced me, and they don't have that many visitors, especially foreign visitors, to the site. So when I came there to visit and to serve and work with him for a week, he introduced me, and all the kids ran around me. And Father Frank Bertrand said, "Hey, Paul, I wanted to introduce you to Johnny. Today is his birthday." And for whatever reason, I took out a box of chocolate in my backpack. I gave it to him. And I said, "Happy birthday, Johnny." In my mindset as a child of a Western country growing up, I would think if my family is poor and I have something that's valuable as this box of chocolate, I would bring it home and share with my family first. So that was my expectation of this kid. But then right there in front of me, he opened up the box. He shared with every kid that was around me. And it just happened to be enough candy for each of the kids and one left for himself. And at that moment, every kid I was standing right next to me, they were smiling so genuinely, so happy. And in my mind, it reminded me of my own upbringing in Vietnam as a child, where I remember helping my dad build a house made out of mud and straw. Even though we were living in poverty, we did not consider ourselves, but I did not consider myself as poor, because the riches that I have, the wealth I have was family. And at that moment, the kid who was poor and living on a dump site, he experienced the most happiest moment and the genuine smile, because he get to share the price chocolate with other people, with his friends. And so for me, that was a life lesson of material things is not as much of a matter, but relationship. And what we do with the resources that we have, even when we're at the lowest moment of our life, if we have someone that we can share with, if we have someone we can smile with, cry with, right? That will help empower us to be able to move forward and be able to overcome challenges. And so those are the things that for me, in my career now, over 20 years after I left the missionary and working in mental health, and as James introduced me earlier, my background is in emergency mental health. So I work with law enforcement, I work with individuals who are suicidal, homicidal, and I would go out and do intervention in the field to de-escalate. And in the course of working with law enforcement in those crises, one of my officer partners shared with me one day as we were riding that, Paul, about 80% of the calls that we responded to, whatever you did, it prevented them from being hospitalized. It prevented them from following through with committing suicide or harming other people. So the techniques and the knowledge that you have works. Why don't you do something to share with more people, create a program so that more people can have the knowledge and the tools so that we don't have to keep responding to the same calls over and over again. And I thought, oh, that's a great idea. If we can prevent crisis, right, then let's do so. And so that's why and how I started moving forward. And it's a program where I train as many people in every field, the knowledge and the tool, and the most importantly, the attitude required to be able to succeed and overcome any challenges. And that's how I developed the moving forward mindset. That's how I developed project success, where I've identified 20 essential life skills that I believe anyone who possesses and masters those life skills can overcome any challenges and succeed in any field. Because those are foundational skill set for the mindset. To be able to, first and foremost, is emotional regulation. If we are unable to regulate and manage our own emotion, then the brain will go into what we call emotional hijack. And we all experience and see that on the news around us when we lose control or when someone else loses emotional control, right? They go into a rage. And all of us, when we make business decision, leadership decision, if we are not calm, the decision that we make tends to be emotional based. It's oftentimes not going to be healthy, and the outcome is going to be unsuccessful. And depending on our sphere of influences, the choices that we make will have larger impact. And so, as all of you as leaders, as all of you as people who have larger influence of impact, right? That's why I was really glad that James invited me to be on his show, so to have this opportunity, and all of us, and all of you included, right? We have lived experience. We know what it's like to lose something, to restart from the beginning, to felt betrayal, right? To experience hopelessness, helplessness. And if we are running a company or have staff with us, we can see it in them as well. When they are having to struggle and work 3, 4 jobs just to make ends meet to be able to sustain themselves, right? Well, how much energy and present can they have to bring to the table when they're sitting in front of you? How fully can they give themselves to you and to the company, to the work that they do, if most of their parts are outside of them, right? They're too worried about what's going on outside in the family, so they can't be present to make executive decision. And that's the frontal cortex here of our brain that's required to be able to do so. And so I want to make this as an interactive, right, discussion as well, because I want to have conversations relevant to you and your field. Because I believe mental health, and the research have shown, mental illness does not discriminate. And mental health, similar to physical health, right? All of us have it. All of us experience it. We all go through a period of well, unwell, sick, right? Severe, and then well if we get treatment and help in time. During this time in the US, the rate of suicide has increased so high. And during the pandemic, especially, that's what gave me the motivation to quit my full-time job at the county to focus 100% in my company to serve the community. Because at the end of 2020 to the beginning of 2021, my office was getting called almost on a weekly basis because some parents have lost a child to suicide. And it was so overwhelming that there are not enough resources. And individuals and children who are dying from suicide in our community now are not people who are poor. Oftentimes, these are kids from well-established and wealthy family, parents who are physicians, parents who are realtor developers, millionaires and multimillionaires, and their kids jumping off the building or accessing the gun inside the house and just shooting themselves. Right? We have a kid that hung himself after he took his younger brother who has autism out for ice cream. And he told the younger brother who has autism that from now on, you are the man of the house. Take care of mom and dad. I will no longer be around anymore. The younger brother who has autism doesn't have the ability to understand what he said. And when the mom asked the younger brother after the funeral, like, hey, the last time that you saw your brother and he took you out for ice cream, what did he tell you? And when the younger brother recounted exactly word for word what the older brother said, the mom broke down. So far, it's like, oh, this could have prevented this if you tell me. But she couldn't blame the younger child because he has autism and doesn't have the ability to recognize that. And she blamed herself because 2 weeks before that, at nighttime, when she walked through the hallway, she saw her child, oldest child, crying. She went in, saw the suicide note, read it, broke down with the son, cried with the son, and then the son, seeing the mom cry, promised her that, oh, okay, I will not go through with it. And because he promised her, she thought, okay, that's it. Then that's so resolved. I don't have to get him any help. And these are 2 physicians. The mom and the dad are both physicians, right? And so for us, it's not a matter of just education alone, wealth alone that can prevent suicide or a crisis, right? Sometimes we do take things for granted and we miss the sign, the red flags. And so as in the business and realty, right, or development, as you see the development, the stresses that comes, right, that similar to James mentioned earlier, in anything that you build, the more you build, the more pressure, the more stresses that's built upon the foundation. And if the foundation is not solid, it's easily able to be dismantled. It's easily able to be destroyed, right? And so how can you empower yourself, give yourself the tool to strengthen your inner core, strengthen your mind and your resolve, right? Establish and lean into your network of supporter. They are not just your businessman, they are not just your business partner. Can they be your lifeline? Right? And can you be someone else's lifeline? Because oftentimes as a realtor, they will not go to another professional for help because other professional, they may not understand what they're going through. So they may go to you because they know, oh, you're in the same field, you're in the same industry, you understand the struggle I'm going through. So oftentimes they may go to you, but they may not be cool to you and verbally express, hey, I'm suicidal. They may come to you with something else, and you may not be able to see the sign. And so for all of us, it's important to have that discussion to understand each other's baseline. Like, for example, like my brief time of knowing James, I've seen him, follow him on social media. You're traveling everywhere. Now you're in Colombia, right? And so he loved to travel, he loved to network. So for my brief assessment, if I were to see James just isolated at home, not interacting, not traveling, not being active on social media as he is, right? Or not active on the phone, not communicating, not responding. For me, that's an indicator that his office baseline, something's wrong. We need to check in on him, even if he doesn't reach out to us first. And so that's the same that you can do with each other as friends, same as partners, as boss, as employers or employees, to be able to be aware of those basics of fundamental signs when someone is not themselves. When you recognize someone is not themselves, and that's the time to be able to take some action to check in first, ask for permission, and then to be able to slowly and gently walk and journey with that person through. And if you don't have the capacity or the time, invite and ask for permission to invite someone else to be involved. Because when someone is in a state of crisis, oftentimes it may require 24 hours monitoring. Because within that 24 hours is critical. They will consider, they will go through with the plan within 24 or 48 hours. But the thoughts of dying and the thoughts of committing suicide or homicide is not something that just come out of the blue, right? It's built upon, it's planning, pre-planning, and it's in the mind. So don't be afraid of expressing it verbally and explicitly. And so far, do you have thoughts of hurting yourself? Do you have thoughts of hurting other people? Right.
And Paul,
So,
can you share your contact and your website? Because what I do like about your course, going through your personal experience, the missionary, serving at the community, and I'll just tell you, Paul gave a very lucrative job, cushy job. You know, he was in charge, pretty big operation to really serve and give back and help. But it is big. What struck me as one, as a business person too, is we all run teams, we run groups, we run people, we volunteer. This baseline of monitoring, understanding yourself and who's around you is important. But why this struck a chord to me is the last Great Recession. I could have been there, but I knew this was going to happen because one of my employees told me, Jim, can I take time off? And then I'm like, this is off. And then I called him again and he says, I need to take another week off. So, Paul, when we were discussing, it was because he didn't go through with it. I was his last call on his cell phone. The picture that I was sent scarred me for life. You know, when they showed me to identify the person, I was shocked. And in other situations, not directly to me, but close enough as friends during the last Great Recession. And I always say it's because of money, the fear of failure, the rejection, just all these things. And this time I said, I'm going to find somebody listening and hearing to people from COVID, interest rates, slowdown in the economy. How do I support divorces? I mean, I'm hearing so much, and I'm not going to always name names. I'm just going to share as much as I can and where to go. Because Paul, out of many people, is not trying to make money. He's obviously got to run his business, but mostly it's he wants to serve. And I've watched you, Paul, you know, I'll toot your horn. I like to always toot everyone's horn, winning awards, winning recognitions, talking to very high ups. but you're still very grounded, humble. You still have that passion to just keep giving, sharing. And I know you are first helping the Vietnamese community because you told me 3 times the amount of suicide rate and crisis rates have gone up. But I know hearing from everyone else's community, this is a problem for everyone. So, I love the train the trainers to get this out. If we can help a family member, a friend to prevent anything, but to love themselves and have a support network, it is very important because I know it's tough. I'm hearing it, I get the call, and I'm just glad that people do trust me. But if I can do something and going on a larger medium, Paul, this is why I want to do it. So I want to make it, like you said, interactive. Please reach out to Paul. We're going to do some others for people with Top Agent Nation and other groups that I'm involved in to at least give people the tools, the resources, the education, the network. So if anyone feels and finds anyone off their baseline, you can do something. Because I wish I could have done more. Paul, I wish I would have known you that I could have done more because I felt it. And boy, was that traumatic. So never do I want to say that I didn't do anything or try to do something for other people, because yeah, it's great to be successful, but I know how hard it is because I've been contacted quite often by many people. And I'm glad, I think it was fate that we met. But Keith Andrews, I know you had your hand raised. Did you have a question, Keith?
At that time, my hand was on my mouse. I apologize. It was sitting on the raised hand. I did not have a question at that time. Sorry.
Okay, well, I know you were in the military, so I thought maybe, PTSD, other stuff, right? Because serving with a very servicemen, military, first responders, I'll tell you, my friends that are cops and law enforcement, they tell me a lot of stories too. So,
Hey, but it's all good. It's all good. I mean, you can say to yourself, does this matter 2 months from now? I do that a lot.
One of the
well,
things I
Keith,
want to share is that since I've been involved with the workforce development project, we've developed the first and only community mental health worker apprenticeship program in the country. And it's certified and approved by the U.S. Department of Labor and the California Department of Apprenticeship Standard. What this means is that any employer in the U.S., can enroll into our program, a workforce development program, and the respective workforce development board in your county will pay up to 30% of the salary for that individual and up to 100% of the tuition cost for the training. So if you are an employer and you want to have someone on your team who's trained in crisis response, trained in recognizing mental health challenges and red flags, right? As well as training in marketing, community outreach, how to organize events, how to hold and establish database. These are some of the skill set that we train our community mental health worker, and we want to place them in every field, in every industry. Right now, we have individuals from the food industry who are tell the staff to us to get training so that they could go back to the food industry, to the restaurant, to the bakery store, to be able to recognize signs and symptoms of the customers who come in with crisis and be able to help them, but also to be able to help the colleagues who have that pressure, the customer service pressure, or internally. We have tellers and bankers and financial and industries sending the tellers, the staff, and the managers to get trained so that when they go back again, they can have someone they call as a wellness coach, right? Because as an occupation, as someone who's trained as a community mental health worker, that's just the discipline or the field. You can take that knowledge base and you can operate in any industry, right? And so that's one thing that's an asset for any employers to be able to have someone on a team that you can turn to and who can support and recognize the signs for yourself or for your team. And I think that's one of the best options right now, is because right now that's the movement I'm trying to do. I'm trying to mass produce everything I know and experience to be able to prevent suicide as early as possible. We don't have to wait till there's a crisis for us to respond, because we know it costs a lot more to respond to a crisis and post-crisis than prevention. And then this skill set also help, right, in terms of not just with mental health, it helps with business. Because right now, my community mental health workers, they are the one who's organizing events in the community for me. They are the one who's organizing and managing on social media. They're the one who's doing marketing and community outreach. Besides mental health, they're the one who's helping the community members who are at risk of homelessness find housing, negotiating with realtor and developer for rental property for our clients to be able to station them there, to place them there. And so these are some of the skill set that can be transferable in any field, including the realtor development business.
Max, you have a question?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges is with us in our society, the individual keeps everything to him or herself, and they don't want to bring up whatever problem that is they're facing. And as a result, because it's stigma that is associated with somebody says, I have this problem, I have that problem, and other people, whether it's co-workers or friends, they look down at him as if he or she is not successful. And as a result, they don't do what is really necessary or is available to them to be able to kind of go through this situation. I mean, we had Robin Williams, what's his name? The chef, that was on TVs and all that. That guy, all of those successful people in person, that they showed that they were successful, but deep down there, they were suffering from all kind of emotional problems and end up not talking to anybody and then killing themselves. It's a problem. I don't know how. It's a lot easier to say, that this is open to me. This option is here, and I'm going to go in and talk with people. It's the stigma that is associated with somebody talking about mental health problems or failure in their business that's stopping a lot of people from being open and discuss that with their co-workers or friends.
Very true, Max, because a couple of our clients are celebrities as well, right? And even one who she has to fake her own death. She hired a stunt double who looks exactly like her, drove a car over the bridge, literally drove over the bridge where the news and the station and they have a dummy dead body.
Yeah.
Right. To fake her own death so that she can change her alias and fly out of the country to come here to the US for treatment. Because where she would live, mental illness was very stigmatized. And because of her family was very affluent in Vietnam, right? Very wealthy, all celebrities, right? Long history and then when she came out and wrote a book about mental illness, about her own depressions, her family denied everything. All of her fan base denied it and turned against her, gave her death threats to talk about mental illness as a celebrity. And so she was getting death threats, getting stalking. So she was so stressed. She faked her own death to come here to the US to get the services, help. And other celebrities that I work with, very similar to what you share. And I think you don't have to be a celebrity to experience this. The Asian culture experiences very highly because of the saving face. And the individuals who are successful, the more successful we are, if we identify our identity to the success. And I've seen this in a lot of founders, a lot of missionaries who have founded churches, hospitals, school, right? When we identify ourselves with our work, we identify ourselves as a person to the success. And when the success is not there, we lose our identity. Yep. And when the identity is lost and we don't have the coping skill, the resources, the support system, the safe place, right, to be able to discuss and ask for help, right? Then that's where we fall apart. That's
Yep.
where individuals experience psychosis. That's where individuals experience suicidality or homicide. When they feel hopeless and helpless and they blame themselves for it, suicide is a natural course because they believe if they die, then their pain will go away. If they attribute others as a cause for the hopelessness or powerlessness, and that turns to homicide. Because if they believe, if I take out my threats or the source that I believe of my situation, then I will regain all that back. Right? So that's a fundamental psychology that leads to both of them. So for us and for those of us who are employers, we have the choice, we have the freedom to make the choice, hey, what kind of work environment do I want to set? For myself, well, my company here, I intentionally and every day I remind my team, I want to set up the best work environment because I want the same work environment as for myself. That's I've worked with government and nonprofits everywhere, and I've seen the challenges. If you see your staff or your employee just as a number, as a means to an end, you don't see them as human being. You don't see them as a valuable asset to your company or to the community, right? Then you take all the profits and they suffer. The work that they do, they don't get value. So for me, I share my personal story with my team. I'm very open. I share with them my suicide attempt. I share with them my struggle with mental illness in the past. I share with them. So the goal is to create an environment where it's normalized to talk about it, where it's safe to talk about it without being ridiculed, without being judged, and where I try to empower all my team that it's okay to ask for help. For me, from anyone that I interview that I bring on board, either as my team members or even including my clients when I do clinical work. Sometimes I do the same thing with my friends because I have only one rule or one ask of them. Is first and foremost is to be honest. To be honest with yourself first and foremost. Whatever you're thinking, feeling, experiencing, own it, acknowledge it. Because when we deny it, when we repress it, what happens is that we produce stress internally, right? That's unnecessary. So that's the foremost. The best way to prevent that is to acknowledge, oh, I'm experiencing this. You can choose to manifest it or not, that's your choice, but acknowledge that you experience it. Second is whoever that you have that relationship with. I myself, I expect and I ask my team members and my clients to be honest with me because there are enough drama around in the world already. When I'm with you, I want to give 100%. And if I am suspicious of you, if I don't trust you, then part of my brain is always be on guard. It's always thinking something else. And because if there's no trust, I cannot be 100% present. I cannot be effective with you or that. So when people talk to me, I trust that they're honest. I trust that the information that they share is honest information, right? And then the third part is to be honest with the process. Because oftentimes in any relationship, we focus on each other's faces. We focus on what we say, but we don't focus on the process of this and the spaces that's in between us. And that spaces in between reflect the processes. How comfortable are we with each other, right? Do we talk with each other like a table apart, or is it right next to each other, right? So that process is it because as a clinical social worker, I'm trained in system theory and trained in system of approach. So I'm able to examine any system, individual, right? Micro, meso, macro, and look at system theory, look at system and be able to identify which part of the system is either distorted, right, dysfunctional, that's impacting the other part of the system. How can we repair, enhance, or replace that part of the system? So in that way, the system can be more effective and efficient, right? That's the same for our personal system, mind, body, and spirit. That's the same as for our family, individual, spouses, children. That's the same as for a company. That's the same as for community, society. And so as a company, as a system, I look at everyone and I see it, like sometimes when I walk into the office and I can sense, okay, my team is very overwhelmed right now. And for me, unless it's life-threatening, anything can pass. I don't mind losing money because my team health goes first. So I was close on the office. I'll take my whole team out for boba. I'll take them to the beach, go for a walk, right? Because when I see my teams being impacted psychologically, emotionally, whatever it is, if it's in person, something's happening to them personally or professionally, but it's having an impact at work, I'm going to address it. And so when my team member come to me and ask me, hey, Paul, we're tired right now. Is it okay if we take off early? Sure. Right? Is it okay if we go out and get some boba? You want anything? Sure, go. I don't have a restriction of how long the break is. I don't have a restriction of what time to come to work or what time to leave. My expectation is you get the work done, right? If you get your work done in 5 minutes, what is an hour, right? The other 45 minutes, you do what you want with it. You earn it because you've demonstrated you can be effective and efficient, right? As a former county employees, right? And I think this is true with a lot of big institutions. If you can demonstrate that you can be effective and efficient, what happens is the employers give you more work, right? and your coworker sees that and they do less so that you can do more. Right? So as an employer, and I've seen that, I have experienced that, right? As an effective operator at in my workplace, right? I don't want to be treated that way, right? If I can be effective and efficient, I earn the time I have. I'm gonna do what I want with the time, right? And so that's why I do the same with my team members here. Here are the list of work that needs to be done this week or this month. If you can get it done in a day or two, the rest is yours. But go on vacation, whatever you want to do with it. And that moves them, right? That motivates them to be effective and efficient rather than wasting time and dragging things on.
Paul, you know what? I love that you said that because it's true. People that are efficient, effective, they get it done. I know April has a question soon. So if you can't bring April up, because we'll get it done. That's what they always say. We give more work to the people that are busy because they get busier. But then you keep giving work, more work, more work to the busy, and they burn out because they'll keep taking it until they fry. And of course, then those that may be lazy, hide behind, don't want to work. And good managers, good bosses, we understand these things. And that's why I said for this course, yes, this is about mental health, be awareness, but it is also making you better when you run teams. Because some people are bad managers. Come on, let's admit it. You would, right? One of the biggest reasons to leave a position is because who you report to, not the environment of the company. Who you report to is why some people quit. They can't stand it. So, April, if you have a question, because I know it will probably be very insightful and very interesting. Go ahead, April.
Thank you, Jim and Paul. Thank you. I don't actually have a question. I just wanted to give a real time or a real life experience on the topic where you spoke about the importance of watching the signs, right? So when we are working or interacting with people on a regular basis, we kind of get to know them on an intimate level. And a personal story for me is that my very first best friend, I saw the signs. To look at her, she had everything. You would think that all was well. And there were, because I saw the signs, I was being polite. It was like when she's ready to talk about it, she'll speak up, and then we'll talk. We'll have this conversation. And so, kind of to this day, I kind of regret being overly polite. And so, my message to everyone on this call today is that when you see the signs, don't wait for them. They won't reach out. You want to reach out to them, begin to probe, ask questions. But the worst thing you can do is wait for them. I still remember the day and the time and the place of when I got the phone call that my best friend had killed herself. And it's taken some time for me to get beyond what if I would have and what could I, you know what I mean? So my message again is do not wait for them. They will not reach out. See the signs, take action, and just probe, get real nosy. Just get in their business and until they're ready to, and make them talk. So that's just my personal experience, and I wanted to share that.
April, thank you for sharing, and maybe this is a good way to close out. Paul, if you can put your information again, because I know sometimes it gets buried in the chat. But April, see these regrets that we have, and I'm sure so many people out there, what could we have done? We saw it, we felt it, but we didn't know what to do, where to go, how to plug in. And so maybe, now, Paul, to end this and close up, what could we do? We all sense it. We all have this spidey sense. We all feel it. If we run other people, oversee, we can feel it and see it. Like I said, if you're a good boss or manager or a team member or lead, we can tell. Or if you're a good manager, you can tell, and whether you want to support it or not, that's up to you. But building this community, Paul, which I really love, and how more people could get involved, is how I'd love for you to close this, Top Agent Nation Commercial Wednesday session. So please share, show people, tell people what we need to do. And I hope for all you listening will plug in. Paul, please.
Thank you. So I think to end this, one of the message I can share that can help, one of the antidote, right, to end suicide, right, is to have hope. So how can we instill hope? Instill hope in ourselves. We cannot give hope when we ourselves don't have hope. We cannot give tools to others if we ourselves don't have the tool. As leaders, I believe that we lead by example. And so as most of us who are in the leadership positions, we have gone through so many, for us, those of us who are founders, we know how it is to be the janitors at the beginning, to be the IT, to be everything and anything, wear every hat, to operate your company when you're a startup. And then when you are successful or reach a point where you don't need to do as much anymore, but you have that experience to know what it's like to be in those positions and to those tasks. And so instilling the hope is sometimes when a person come in, based on their responses, the conversation with you, you can pretty much tell their mindset. Is this someone who has hope in their life or not? Or is someone who's feeling hopeless, for one? So if at any point if someone's feeling hopeless, that's a red flag that we need to be able to address, right? And as leaders, one of the biggest challenge for us to be able to help everybody and anybody in our team or in our company is our time and our energy, our capacity. Because we have so many things that's going on, so many projects, so many priorities. We may miss signs because it's not that we're not looking for it, but because our mind is so preoccupied with so many things that we miss time because of being overlooked. And so give yourself permission, that's self-compassion. Because as April shared, and I've experienced the same thing, that survival guilt, and James share as well, right? That survival guilt is very real. And when we don't give ourselves that self-compassion, it will eat us just like poison. And so give ourselves that compassion. It's like we're not justifying because we're not there 24/7. And so for us to help ourselves as well as help our others around our close to the network, right? Is to make sure we have a system, a support system that can be available 24/7. So if I'm not available, talk to the HR manager. If I'm not available, talk to this person in the company, right? And so as a team of leadership, you have individuals in your team that you check in regularly, not just among yourself to provide support among each other, but also to check in among your team members. Hey, I've noticed John here is a little bit off. Usually he's more bubbly, usually he's more productive. Now I see him being less productive and not as present at team meeting, more withdrawal, for example. He's not coming to work late or isolating himself. Right now, I'm busy with this project. Right now, I'm in Colombia, for example. I won't be able to be as supportive to him. You are right next to him. Can you monitor? Can you check in with him? And let's establish a safety plan, for example. So have a very structured safety plan among internally and update each other so that we all are on the same page so that we can support each other along the way. And then I always ask the question, who else needs to be involved? Right? Because we ourselves, none of us have all the answer. All of us have blind spot. And so when we ask the question, who else needs to be involved? What other resources need to be included to help these individuals move forward or the situation move forward, right? So in that way, we are not carrying the whole burden on our shoulder. So that's one, is to be able to expand your network. And in that network, I hope that you establishing network, especially your inner network, individuals who are genuine, who care for you, who holds you accountable, be able to say no to you, not just say yes all the time, right? But to say no to you and to tell you to stop whatever you're doing. Because those are the true friends, right? Those are the ones who care for you for who you are. And so that's also something. So establish a network, give yourself permission, right, to feel whatever that you feel. Show empathy and connect, have regular team meeting and checking with each other. Establish a culture within your company, within your workplace, where it's safe to talk about any issue. It's normalized. We don't just talk about it when there's people in trouble. Talk about it even during happy moment. So in that way, people know, hey, I'm not, every time I see you, it's a bad issue, right? So normalize and balance it out. And so in that way, you can talk about negative topic as well as uncomfortable topic, as well as difficult topic, and a happy topic all at the same time. And so there's no fear and anxiety of bringing up any topic. right? And so those are some of the final comments I'd like to share.
Paul, thank you so much for sharing it, because I know this is touched and shared because everyone knows somebody felt something, wish they could have done something. But building this support network, which I hope to help you achieve your dreams, really to grow this globally, because I know you only have this much of resources. We all do, time, energy, effort, but this is something, you know, and there's so many ways I've been touched personally because of this mental health from just so many angles, that I think it was just meant to be, to have you on, to get to meet you, to get to know you and your genuine efforts of serving and helping and giving. And sometimes, like I said, looking after you, because you just keep giving until you got nothing. And that's what's important, that all of us needs to look after each other so we can support and help each other. But this is a good foundation, as many of us are, you know, evolving. And let's say when we make it, happy times, put this in place so other people that are building your company and business have the same mindset about people. So Paul, thank you again for being on our show and sharing. Please reach out, anyone and everyone. This is a important issue, but also it's a great course, you know, and that's what you can learn to be better for yourself, for your family, for the people you oversee. This is important. And so I encourage everyone to stay connected, to learn and spread the word and help other people that you come in contact. So again, Paul, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And please plug in and help a friend, help a family member, help anyone in your community and society. Everyone have a great day. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, James.